To work with unilateral parameters, we must first select the soft shell we want to make adjustments to. Once it's highlighted, we will see more parameters in the bottom right corner. If you do not see this, make sure that the blue wrench is selected. Starting with the met line, this decides the transition from the MTP joints to the forefoot. Beyond the met line, the mesh is slowly smoothed into a flat, full-length surface. The transition smoothing as well as the met line placement can be played with to get a smoother transition. Next up, the forefoot cutting tool will cut the orthotic's outsole shape along the forefoot. It does this by cutting anything that is not within its boundary. On the orthotic, you may notice white sidewalls. This is where the cutter has cut the object. Anything colorful has not been affected. If you see a strange result, and the color surrounding this result is white, check the cutter. The cutter should have the object completely contained within it, except the transition into the forefoot. These parameters each manipulate the cutter in a different way. Use the height, taper, ML offset, and in some extreme cases, the Z translation parameters to alter the shape of this cutting tool for a smooth transition. Sometimes the shape of the foot will need extreme angles that would only take a few seconds to touch up on the grinder. So as long as it's close, we can work with it. And then we have postings. Forefoot and heel postings have many parameters that are visualized with the color gradient once enabled. The taper and angle will decide the height of the posting, with others controlling the shape of it. We can also have a toe crest. The perimeter of the toe crest is decided by this toe crest line. The toe crest line can be moved and resized to your liking, while its height parameter will extend it from 0 to the shape of the scan at its perimeter's location. We also have Morton's cuts available. This functions the same as the forefoot cutter, as it will be cutting the extension out from the full-length outsole. Use the parameters to control the cutter's topology, influencing the shape of the cut. The depth, taper, length, and ML offset parameters all will influence the shape and direction of the cutter. You can also decide between a reverse Morton's extension and a Morton's extension using this checkbox here, as well as the cut percentage based on which digits you want to be included in this extension. Also keep in mind that this cutter is in an experimental phase of development, and that touching up the shape on the grinder may be easier than getting the exact result you want presented in the software. It's worth noting that these postings are visualized with the color gradient. However, when we go to print the orthotics, it saves time printing the outsole on a flat surface. Therefore, as we view the print, it will automatically convert the posting intrinsically. The same shape and thickness, just no longer visually represented by the color gradient along the outsole. Alright, now let's talk about met pads. Since everybody does met pads differently, it only makes sense to make it so you can draw it in. We can do this quite easily in sculpt mode. First, select your scan on the foot that you want the met pad on. Now by holding tab, or by looking in the top left corner, we can navigate to sculpting mode. This is now a completely new environment utilizing brush tools. What you'll be doing is you'll be sculpting a met pad into the scan that the orthotic will now bind itself to. So first you're going to look for the draw brush. The draw brush's radius and strength can be altered here in the top left corner. Once you have settings that you like, you can start drawing the met pad on the foot. You will see a raised area where the met pad is being drawn. Dragging the brush across the surface can have some pretty intense results. So I suggest just doing clicks until you get it to the shape that you like. You might notice by doing this that it'll look pretty bumpy. To smooth it out, hold Shift and then drag the mouse across the met pad you just drew. This will smooth out the topology, creating a nice met pad transition. You can now switch back into object mode and it will apply this MetPad. If at any point you don't like the work you've done, just hit Command Z or Control Z a bunch of times until the MetPad disappears. With our orthotics design finalized, we can move on to sending it for printing.